Right here in studio, man, to my right, I've been a fan of yours for quite some time, and I'll stop talking about you like you're not sitting here, Edward Norton. Motherless Brooklyn in theaters near you, coming out on Friday, tomorrow, November 1st. Good to see you, sir.
You too. Great to be here.
Great movie. Great film, sir.
Thank you.
And an adaptation of a very popular book. Why did you choose this book to go ahead and direct it and write it and produce it?
Because I'm a greedy actor and I wanted the gig.
Okay.
It's a great role. I mean, that honestly, like, we definitely in the end expanded the vision into some wider ambitions. But in terms of the scope of the story and all of it, but in the beginning, really, this character, it's almost like reading Catcher in the Rye for the first time. It's like you get inside his head, and he's such a hot mess of contradictions. He's smart and sensitive, but he's also like afflicted with Tourette syndrome, and it's funny. You're wincing, you're laughing, you actually feel empathy for what's hard about it, and he's just a fascinating ride. And when I read it, I was like, that's one of those roles you literally go, could I even do that?
Right.
And so it started with that, and then it became, well, how do you take this this book that's wonderful but a very interior experience inside a guy's head? How do you make that a movie? And if you make it a movie, what more do you go for in it? And it sort of evolved for me over time.
And it's a fascinating time in the history of the city of New York as well, where you are revealing a lot of obviously graft corruption, but the making of the city, and I guess for anybody who knows New York City, a Robert Moses type character that Alec Baldwin plays so expertly. And it's just a lush film that you nail the time period.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to go for one of those. I mean, there's a certain point, if you're lucky in your career, you say, well, what are the movies I like to see? What do I like? What do I wish there was more of? Right. Why don't I try to make one? And I think for all of us, like, the experience of an LA Confidential, or Chinatown, or even things that aren't noir or detective things like Unforgiven, or something that where you don't even really think back on the plot. What you remember is the experience, that movie magic experience where your brain goes, whoa, this looks right. Mm-hmm. It's big, it's deep. The music is great. The actors are weighty and things, and something flicks in your head and you say, this all feels right and grown up, and I'm just in. This hypnosis happens and you just are happy to be there. You're happy to be on the ride. And The Godfather was like that for me. I mean, the first time you saw The Godfather, it's partly the story, but a lot of it is just the bigness of it, mm-hmm. And the fact that it's that many great actors, and I wanted to take a shot at making one of those.
Edward Norton here on the Rich Eisen Show. Cast is amazing. One of my favorite people that I actually have known, and he has sat in this chair, guest host of the show, Bobby Cannavale.
Oh, yeah.
And I snapped a photograph of him as I was watching it at home, because I got a link to watch it. Took a picture of him. I'm like, I'm watching you right now in Motherless Brooklyn. And he writes back about the Jets, because he was, the Jets were screwing it up on Monday Night Football.
That's a polite.
Well, I was Motherless Jet fan, I guess, in a way, right there. He's amazing in it, and obviously so is Bruce Willis, Willem Dafoe, Alec Baldwin, just absolutely,
he
crushed it.
I think for those of us, Alec, how the Greek masks of drama are like the comedy and the tragedy.
Sure.
Mask. Alec is one of those actors who's got it both. The fact that he's this great comedic and satirical actor,
right,
which not lots of great dramatic actors have those chops. He has both, but I've never lost sight of the fact that, the Alec that we loved in Glengarry Glen Ross, Coffee is for Closers Only.
Yes.
Like that. I mean, if there was ever a more iconic kind of a forceful bully than that moment in that film, I don't know what it is. And when I was coming up in New York, he was doing Streetcar on Broadway, and people were like, yeah, let's see you step into Brando's shoes. And I remember going and seeing it and going, oh my God, he owns this.
Yes,
like
he does.
he has that weight. We were we were talking about Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, but in that era, like Lee J. Cobb, like people from those movies like On the Waterfront who feel like they are cut right out of the New York street.
12 Angry Men.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And Alec has that. For me, he's always had that. And when I thought about who's the ultimate New York power boss, who's lethally charming and lethally intimidating too, that's him. And he crushes it.
He does.
In this. Yeah.
He does. Yeah, and I mean, another, I guess, serious comedic role, his role in The Departed, on times where he would own the scene, and I would be laughing out loud sometimes with the way that he handled that role.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I think, isn't it a funny thing? There are times when if something's really great, someone can be saying something that's cruel or grotesque,
right?
But the language is so good, and they own it so well. You laugh. Laughing is the strangest response, but sometimes you just laugh at the delight of how muscular,
rich
it is, and he says some things in the end of this film, in this kind of dark soliloquy in the pool.
Yes.
Some of which you can't repeat, but it's almost like the unapologetic, like it makes you sort of almost like laugh in horror. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting. Edward Norton here on the Rich Eisen Show, I had the benefit of watching it on a link, and I know that that's not what a director wants, but I'm saying the reason why I'm bringing it up here is I watched that soliloquy a second time.
Yeah.
It was that good.
Yeah,
I just wanted to see how he chewed it up like it was a meal for him.
There's times too. There are literally times, like there's a bit in there where it doesn't ruin anything. He says, if some guy wants to blackjack me, threatening to move our baseball team, then the Dodgers can take it on the arches to the effing coast.
It's true.
And I couldn't imagine anyone saying that like him. I felt that way about Cannavale too. Like there's certain lines in there. Bobby says at one point, like, I know it's cold, that's why they call it winter.
Right.
And you can't,
the way he says
in
it.
a lot of people's mouth, I don't think I could pull off the line the way he can. There's just an authenticity to some actors that they can do things that other people can't do.
Edward Norton here on the Rich Eisen Show, and let's talk a little bit of comedy here, because the gentleman across the way right there, Chris Brockman, his significant other was a writer on the roast for Bruce Willis, Sarah Tiano, who told us that you are the only one that they have written jokes for that when it got punched up, it was funnier.
Meaning when I punched it up?
When you punched it up, when you took you got. So I mean, obviously you have those chops as well.
Well,
Edward.
Right, in a funny way, I flip the compliment back to them. I always think people who aren't comedians shouldn't dilettantishly think that they can do what comedians do.
Sure.
And I sort of felt going into that the best thing to do was write something that's more like me being me, having fun,
Sure.
Sending up yourself instead of trying to like trade zingers with Jeff Ross. That is a recipe for being like cut down by a samurai sword
It's a prize
and
fight.
left as a garnish on a salad. You know what I mean? Like the better thing to do is almost act like you're playing it straight.
Yes.
And I think what I knew, I had certain angles on it that were my own that I think it also, by the way, it mixes it up a little bit. It's good to have something that comes in a show like that. You're going to get a lot of great comedians.
Sure.
But I think having something that plays at a different rhythm is part of why people enjoyed it.
I love roasts. I mean, roasts to me it's an unbreakable format.
And plus, they gave me some great lines too. I can't take credit for like there was a really good line about how I turned to Wes Anderson and said, "Shut up, you long-haired," something. That is a movie star. Like that was there.
When did you first meet Bruce Willis? When did you first ever cross paths with him?
Well,
'cause he's in this movie. He's terrific in it as well.
He is terrific in it, and I'm happy to tell that story because I sort of mentioned it on that roast, but in sincerity, Bruce saw me in a play many years ago, 17 years ago. He saw me in a play in New York, and I got home in the night after the show, and there was a letter from him that was so thoughtful and amazing about the play and about the thing. I called him and said, thank you, and he said, let's get a beer. And we talked, and he said, look, I do what I do, but I came up in New York. I came to think I want to do work like that. And if you've got something that I can be in, I'm in. He said, I really want you to call me. And I thought, all these years later, I was like, he's going to say, oh, thanks, kid, but I got Die Hard coming up, and you know what I mean? And he said, I'm in. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, you should read it. And he goes, no, I will, but I told you I'm in, and I'm in. And he anchored the film. I got the film put together with the studio, and he helped me get the money to put the film together, and he did it for no money. So I literally, it's not even that he's great in the film and that he's a big part of the emotional anchor, because his relationship and my character's relationship is what makes you understand why this guy's doing what he does for the rest of the film.
Right.
And him being Bruce, him being the guy he is part of what makes it work. And but I couldn't have gotten the movie made without his support, and Alec and Willem and all these great actors came together and did this movie for me for no money. They did it for the love of the piece, and
it's amazing. It really is amazing. Motherless Brooklyn in theaters on Friday. And since you know Bruce Willis, I'm going to go here right now, Chris. And you're a filmmaker, and you are an actor with trophies in the case. Do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie? Would you say that is a Christmas movie, Edward Norton?
Emphatically, yes.
Thank you, Edward.
Oh my gosh.
Vindicated once again.
I mean, okay. I do not. I do not. Why do you feel that way so emphatically? Yes.
I'll tell you why. Because Edward? It fits in with my dad on the, who worked really hard, and so the Christmas holiday was, it was a fun time to sit back on the couch, and we would watch movies like The Dirty Dozen and The Great Escape, and I think it's one of those. I think it's not just because he wears the Santa hat, but because it's what I associate. It's the fun kind of movie that I associate with over the holidays, finally having some time to sit back and watch a movie with my dad.
Because to me, a Christmas movie is about angels. It's about the holiday spirit. It's about a miracle happening. It's about a feel-good.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think It's a Wonderful Life. That's what I think of.
Yes.
I don't think of Hans Gruber trying to blow up Nakatomi Plaza. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. No. That's a completely rational argument. I get why you think that.
Right, just because there's a holiday party and they're playing music, and as you say, ho, 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 I have a machine gun is a great line. I just don't, that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. No, let's put it this way. If you said to me, does Die Hard have the Christmas spirit? I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, now we're getting, I think we can agree to disagree, because Jake Tapper, the screenwriter, I think Steven D'Souza, they're all like, yes, emphatically Christmas movie. Yeah. I say absolutely not.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis, as you know, at the end of his roast, I don't know if you saw his roast. You were obviously at the roast. The line that he said at the end.
Yeah. Yippee-ki-yay, right?
Yeah, so he said that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Oh, he did. That's
which
right.
was written for him by his significant other. So I guess we're coming full circle on that front.
I think that there's part of the. If you're really lucky and you get to have a career and work with various people, sometimes you really like getting to work with Bruce, getting to work with Alec, getting to work with Willem Dafoe. Like those are people I came up on,
sure,
and and idolized in different ways. Willem was the quintessential New York theater actor who still had his own theater company and went off and was a movie star and an Academy Award-winning actor. And
in Platoon.
Yeah, right. But like me and Phil Hoffman and Bobby and Mark Ruffalo and everyone who went to New York to be actors and was in theater companies, Willem was like, if you could have that kind of career where you kept the straddle between, that's it, you know what I mean? And getting to like direct and work with him, that was like a peak experience for me.
Well, in a few minutes really I have left here, I want to go through, we have a segment here called Celebrity True or False, where there are stories about your career that we just want to know if they're true or not, just because they're on the internet. So let's go. Hit the drop here, Mike Tyson.
Celebrity, true or false?
You can't handle the truth.
Okay, very good. That's our drop. With Edward Norton, first one up. You took soap making classes with Brad Pitt during the filming of Fight Club. Is that
True.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay. What does a class like that look like? What is the experience to take a soap making class with Brad Pitt like?
It's sort of like probably something that would run on Goop now.
Okay.
It was me and Brad and a couple of people who are artisanal soap makers, and we had a blast.
Okay.
It was great.
And can you still make stuff from soap?
It's not
basically?
that complicated.
Okay.
It's slightly more complicated than making cookies. You can burn yourself with the lye, so you have to wear gloves and be careful.
Okay.
And there's vegetable-based soaps, and then there's ones that still use like
So it's
animal
like riding a
fats
bike here. I mean, like, my gosh, years later, it's like you.
Yeah, no, it was.
Okay.
We would do our soap making and then go over for our Muay Thai classes.
In succession, like one after another.
Yeah, sometimes still with the, actually the glycerin, interesting to when you're grappling later and
Sure. I love it.
you can't do the jujitsu hold because of the glycerin.
So it's not like Fight Club. You can talk about soap making classes pretty much years later. Okay, very good. Next up, you played in the World Series of Poker with Matt Damon to prep for the role of Worm and Rounders.
We played in the World Series, Matt and I, not to prep. After the shoot, we were done with the film.
No kidding.
It was part of the run-up promoting the film.
So
We played in the promotional run-up to the film coming out.
And so obviously the movie studio fronted you the fee, correct?
I believe they did.
They put up the
I believe
fee.
they did. Either they did or the tournament did, because in that era, like, it was not sexy. It was not like they didn't have a lot of celebrities coming to play poker, and Matt and I weren't even like big celebrities per se. We were what they could get.
Who lasted longer, you or Matt?
You know what? We both did okay, and we both had we both played along well. And the coaching we'd gotten from Johnny Chan and Phil Hellmuth and a lot of these other guys stood us in good stead. And I got some good cards and won a few hands and everything. We both had very like dramatic exits. I actually played a Johnny Chan tip. I played pocket nines when I was on the button and ended up with I bet it as though it was an ace king or something like that. I got a middle flop. I got a 9 and a 10, and then I got a second 10. So I had a pretty much unreadable full house.
Yes.
And I got beat by 4 10s.
Get out of here.
By a guy named Surinder Singh.
He quadded 10s against
Quad
your
10s
boat?
against an unreadable full house. And when I called, and I had more chips than him, when I flipped the boat, the whole table exploded. They were like, he's going to take Surinder Singh out of the tournament.
Yeah.
And he flipped quad 10s.
Unbelievable.
Yep, it was incredible.
I was going to say, do you remember the hand that you went out with? But how could you not remember that?
There's more details of it too. But he said to me later, he goes on 99 out of 100 times, he goes, you would have not. He goes, I had no idea that you had that hand. I'm blown away.
That
and
makes it worse, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, worse. I still, as we're talking about it, we're talking about it, and I'm having the Saving Private Ryan moment where everything goes silent again. And I was trying to play it off, but I just, gut shot. When they talk about being gut shot, I was gut shot.
That
literally.
is the definition.
And Matt's wasn't that. Matt went all in before the flop on kings, pocket kings, against Doyle Brunson. Brunson had pocket aces, Matt had pocket kings, and nothing came up, and he got beat, on a ace king flop roll out by Doyle Brunson, but that's pretty great.
Doyle Brunson,
pretty great.
Cool.
So wow,
yeah,
so
we did okay.
I was about to say. So now you've got to make a rounders too, right? So you can get back in there and
talk to Koppelman and Levine. It's all with them.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was in an episode of Billions, Edward Norton, this past year, so I know what it's like to read Koppelman and Levine written lines.
Yeah,
so
they're masters.
They would. I everyone said, like you've said it. I think Matt Damon has said it. These guys have said it. So let's just get everyone together and do it. Right?
Yeah, it's The Color of Money is, to me, the greatest example of why it's worth waiting, right?
Yes.
Like because it was a long time later, it was connected to The Hustler, but there was it had something to it because he was so much older, right?
Yes.
So I actually think, like people say, oh, will there be a Fight Club to this? It's like, shut up. That's just an urban myth. That's ridiculous. But Rounders, I don't think we're unserious about it. I just think it should be right. They should be in a different phase of their life. And I think Worm obviously has to have been involved in the credit default swaps that led to the 2008 financial collapse or something like that.
The Big Short
Yeah,
meets,
no question.
meets Rounders too.
Or else he's been working for the GRU to get Trump elected. I don't know what.
He's doing
but he has been in the game, in the fringes. That's all your true or false questions?
I've got one last one if you have time for it. Yeah. We've got it too. Last one is you developed your twang for your Oscar-nominated performance in Primal Fear by watching the film The Coal Miner's Daughter.
That's true. Yeah. My people are originally from Eastern Kentucky, but the accent isn't really in our family anymore. Yeah. And so Sissy Spacek and Tommy Lee Jones in that film are doing a really, really good kind of Appalachian thing, and I thought that seemed right. Like
and that's how you picked it up.
Yeah, like a poor little rube.
You nailed it. Well, so I'm glad that. So most of these are true.
Most of those are true. Yeah.
Okay. That's odd.
And since you like Reiner and Mel Brooks,
I do.
My favorite note I ever got from a director was on Fight Club when I was doing one of the things like in wingtips in the underwear running away, whatever. It's sort of funny, but and anyway, Fincher came over to me and he goes, "A little less Jerry, a little more Dean," and I was like, I know, that's it. Don't say anything else for the rest of the film. All you have to do is say Jerry Dean, like Jerry Dean.
Little more Dean, little less Jerry.
A little less Jerry, a little more Dean.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but you know what that means,
sure.
right?
Yeah, like just little bit more debonair.
Cool, not quite so not quite so goofy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That became almost like the meter for that whole film.
Well, Motherless Brooklyn's an outstanding movie. I suggest everybody go see it when it's in theaters tomorrow. You're great in it, and so is everybody else. I can't rave about it enough.
Thank you very much.
And I really appreciate you coming on here.
That was fun.
Like I said, I have been a big fan for quite some time. At Edward Norton on Twitter and at Edward Norton Official on Instagram, should you choose to follow Edward Norton on any of those social media outlets. Good to see you, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Edward Norton right here on The Rich Eisen Show. We'll close up shop in a moment.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.